Today is April 29th, the day after the Canadian federal election in 2025. As of right now, it's looking like a minority Liberal government, likely to be supported by the NDP members. We're in uncharted waters, and I wanted to talk about strategy, especially around development, cultural trends, and what risks and opportunities it may present for social enterprises in Canada.
We are going to build, baby, build.
Here's the context. Trade war with the US. The current administration has demonstrated that the old ways of doing things cannot be trusted to continue. Housing prices are high. Immigration is being pointed to as a source of both employment and housing strain. There are fears of a broad recession. Many nonprofits are struggling to find funding for programming and supports. Businesses can't rely on the prices that they were quoted. Several don't know what the final price of materials will be until they arrive across the border. And the labor market has been uncertain for both employers and employees lately. And here are the changes. Mark Carney's Liberals will be forming government. The campaign had a focus on Canadian independence, industry, investment, and infrastructure. There has been recent pressure on the U.S. financial markets. Bond yields and interest rates could potentially threaten the U.S. economy and the U.S. dollar as the international standard exchange currency. Foreign investment into unfriendly countries is under scrutiny, and people broadly are looking for sources of stability. I want to go through some of the key points that were in the Liberal campaign and those highlighted in Carney's victory speech on election night. Then I'll talk about some risks, concerns, and opportunities, and end with the specific industries that I think should be prepared to make some moves. We will be seeing infrastructure, housing, and business investment from the feds. This is likely going to include massive spending from the feds directly into infrastructure projects, including roads, rails, electrical grids, ports, and other economic infrastructure. This is directly from their platform and shouldn't be a surprise. They'll also be trying to use that investment to spur other private investment into business and other infrastructure movements. They're also including funding for training programs, specifically calling out the unionized trades. This is a major theme, and so we'll be circling around this for the rest of this video.
We have many other options than the United States to build prosperity for all Canadians.
The assumption of open international trade is over. The systems that underpinned the economic systems that I grew up in are gone. We can no longer assume that supply chains through the US are stable, and assuming that north-south trade is easier than east-west trade is a mistake. There are opportunities, as most of the world has been burned at the same time. Where there is uncertainty, there's opportunity, and we're seeing a lot of uncertainty for the nations that were large trading partners of the US in December of 2024. We will likely see those nations making closer bonds, and after election night here in Canada, there's a mandate for the Canadian government to pursue this strategy. And there's recognition that existing deals with some international governments can't be as trusted as they could in the past.
It's time to build twice as many homes every year with an entirely new housing industry using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, Canadian lumber.
In addition to major national infrastructure projects, the government's looking to rapidly increase the number of new housing units being built. This follows the housing accelerator and municipal zoning changes that have been pushed to municipalities to qualify for funding. This will need many tradespeople and massive investment pools available to actually be able to build new housing.
And it's time to build an industrial strategy that makes Canada more competitive while fighting climate change.
There's also the discussion of making Canada more competitive while fighting climate change. I expect this will be more capital investment into Canadian business and industry, and some of the larger infrastructure projects are also intended to make inputs and logistics cheaper for businesses.
It's time to build Canada into an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy.
There's a push for more Canada-produced energy and raw materials. There is a significant national security angle on this. Over the past few years, most of the innovation that's being focused on in the media and that's filling investors' dreams are very energy intensive. If we don't have enough energy to be able to keep the economy running, all the investments into the economy won't mean much. That same national security lens will also probably be the justification for expanding traditional climate-affecting energy sources, even though it goes against some of the other platform pillars. The justification will likely be that the infrastructure is already well understood, it's easier to scale, and that it's easier to work with in remote settings. I expect there will be a push for more green energy production, and there will be investment incentives for distributed energy production to reduce the impact of any one potential point of failure. And minerals are also going to get the national security narrative. Rare earth minerals have been a large part of the conversation since international trade has been disrupted. If the majority source of rare minerals is China, and those minerals are what forms the foundation of advanced economies, then we're only exchanging one economic ruler for another. Batteries and computer hardware are some of the product categories that are focused on for these minerals, and I can't imagine fulfilling the other goals of this government without also investing in those product categories. So, what does this mean? There are new risks and opportunities, but before I give my thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What are the risks and opportunities that affect your local community? How could you change either what you're doing or how you're doing it to reduce your risk or take advantage of an opportunity? Please include enough context so that we can understand the situation that you're coming from. And even if you're not from Canada, many of the issues that I've brought up in the context part are common in other countries. So I'd love to hear from you as well. Now, I'll be focusing on the potential internal effects that could come out of the focus areas and the responses to these international pressures. There will probably be massive boosts in infrastructure and housing construction. We will likely see more labor shortages than we're used to in the short term, and then potentially another boom-bust cycle for labor that reskills to meet the demand of the moment. The builders with good labor management and supply chains will likely do very well in the coming years, and will be magnets for investment if the government follows through on their promises. The risks are that some builders will explode in scale and outpace their capacity and management skill, leading to potential quality dips or project stoppages. Another risk is that the builders might be eaten up by debt if anything happens to the systems behind investment, banking, or interest rates. Companies that have a chance to build up their internal management systems should do so before the new projects start moving more quickly, so that they'll be able to take advantage of increased demand before supply catches up. And I'd love to see social enterprises growing or starting that focus on the following areas: keeping projects moving forward and managing builds, general contractors; construction supply, like community-owned lumber mill co-ops, for example; trades training programs and job placements; and credit unions stepping in as intermediaries for federal housing construction loans. If you don't know what a social enterprise is, welcome here. I hope you'll stick around. There's a video on our channel called Defining Social Enterprise. There will be a link down in the description. And I'll also include a link to a playlist where we put future videos that explain what social enterprise is. Moving on. When it comes to labor in the trades, we're likely to see significant shortages. So those that currently have training and management systems to take on more jobs will do well. There will also likely be more incentives for tradespeople to take on apprentices, so that the supply of labor will eventually catch up to the target level of demand. With changing trade and supply chains, we're likely to see different kinds of building patterns and materials than we've become used to. There might be more emphasis on locally produced materials that stay in the country to be used for final construction rather than traded away internationally. With all of these factors, I would not be surprised if we see more projects that are geared towards the kind of home construction that has historically had higher profits, and will probably struggle to see affordable housing without strong incentive systems in place. With labor being scarce compared to anticipated demand, prices will go up. New supply chains being put in place and a push to build many, many more homes will likely cause material costs to go up until construction material suppliers grow to meet that demand. With higher costs in both labor and materials, and the push to build so many more homes, developers will want to make sure that what they're building will be financially sustainable and will they'll go for more profitable builds. And affordable housing usually isn't the most profitable to build. In addition to good incentives, we'll also need strong auditing to make sure that those that receive the incentives actually follow through on building affordable housing units, as there have been plenty of examples to point to where the plans include affordable units and they're just missing once the build is complete. In this area, I'd love to see social enterprises that include creating architectural plans that focus on affordable housing with dignity and with options for various family types. And I'd also like to see property management of affordable housing and the maintenance of affordable housing being held by social enterprises. There will likely be organization level opportunities in infill construction, trades training, and construction material producers. There will also likely be individual opportunities for those that already have trade certifications, people with good training skills, and people that can do quick, consistent, and reliable construction work. Now to energy. I'll be looking at provincial governments and energy production crown corporations like my local Manitoba Hydro to begin opening up opportunities for household solar or community-owned renewable energy production projects that feed into the grid. This will help smooth over some of the energy production concerns that we have in Manitoba, and could also contribute energy that historically has been sold internationally into that new national grid that is being proposed. We're used to seeing few but large infrastructure projects like hydroelectric dams that have a significant impact on the land and communities that surround them. And these opportunities would both reduce demand on existing projects and help bring up production to meet the above expected demand increases that we've seen over the past number of years. When it comes to this area, I'd love to see social enterprises working in solar installation and installation of systems that help to reduce the local energy load, both residential and industrial. Let's move to food systems for a moment. They're likely going to see significant changes in supply chains and market conditions. The platform had a policy to make loans and farm insurance more accessible to small farmers that are looking to get into the industry, which should make farming more appealing to potential small producers. But they're still going to need logistics systems to get food from their producer location to the market. Investment into smaller, more local distribution systems can help with reducing the environmental effect of farming and the logistics that surround it, while also bringing fresher food to market all across the country. I don't know enough about foreign investment in large-scale agricultural production, but I would expect to see some kind of shakeup if some of the large producers have primary ownership in countries that are economically unfriendly to Canada. Locally owned producers may have an opportunity to fill in gaps that may be created. And in this area, there are social enterprise opportunities in food production and industry, looking at farming, production, logistics, food product manufacturing, and etc. And lending and or insurance for community food producers and industry. Now, let's talk interprovincial trade and work.
We will build one Canadian economy, not 13, with a government committed to free trade in Canada by Canada Day.
With the talk of much looser boundaries for businesses and labor between provinces, we are likely to see some new opportunities and risks. First off, small locally focused businesses will have new competition from mid and large-sized businesses from other parts of the country. This will probably be great for customers, but it'll be challenging for small businesses. Doing research on potential competitors that from across the country now, before the interprovincial trade barriers come down, will give small businesses a chance to establish their positioning and to differentiate from the likely incoming competitors before they arrive. This could also present opportunities for those small businesses to partner or franchise with the larger businesses and act as a local branch of the larger business. There could also be opportunities to expand into the other provinces and to earn a little bit of market share there. If the interprovincial barriers to labor are reduced, I think we'll see some provinces initially struggling to keep talent within their borders, as wages are not the same across this country. Here in Manitoba, we recognize that we're a low-wage, low-cost province. This could heighten an existing pattern of professionals leaving Manitoba to go to higher-wage provinces like BC or Ontario for higher wages in their early career, and then coming back to retire in Manitoba with a higher total amount saved for retirement. Provinces and employers will need to create some kind of system to keep a healthy pool of labor in all provinces, as the workers will have greater mobility between provinces. And this could also be great for workers in that they can earn better living from being able to move across the country. Finally, I want to address some of the potential issues that could come with the proposed infrastructure and investment talks. Indigenous communities are going to be put in uncomfortable situations when it comes to energy and mining expansion. With the emphasis on creating shorter approval cycles for projects and reducing the ability for appeal, we will see communities, especially Indigenous communities, that are disadvantaged in these negotiations. The government will need to be able to clearly show that the consultations and negotiations with the communities that are affected by these infrastructure and industry expansions are healthy, fair, and where all the parties involved are not under duress. I would be happy to hear that communities affected by these projects receive long-term benefits either through ownership or a proportional access to the economic and community benefits that come from the projects, but historically that has been left lacking. The point of our work here at Strategy Made Simple is to help social enterprises and social impact businesses grow their business to make more impact. If you'd like our help with strategic planning, business planning, or leadership coaching, please email me at matthew@StrategyMadeSimple.ca. We can help you make sense of your context and work together to make strategies so that you can keep moving forward and focus on your work. You can see our full list of services at StrategyMadeSimple.ca. This is just some of the quick thoughts that I've had since last night's election coverage, and I'm sure that I haven't covered everything and I've probably missed something. If I've missed something, please let me know in the comments.